Hello, welcome back. My favorite things. John Coltrane. I made some videos about this jazz record. We have an ERC version. We had the 50th anniversary. Was it the 50th? I think so. I'm not sure. With the mono and the stereo. I think it was done by Kevin Gray. But what I couldn't do so far, and now what I'm of course loving to do, is comparing it against the 45 RPM version, stereo version from Analog Production, and compare it to the first US pressing. Again, of course, thanks to the courtesy of Thomas Busk in Denmark, from Copenhagen Vinyl. And now as the mono experience, this mono journey has begun, I compare the stereo first pressing against its first pressing counterpart from the US in mono. So we have, in a way, two comparisons here. And of course, I'm so happy that I can compare finally this amazing record against its original and could listen to both versions of the original. The record itself was recorded in 1961, and what's quite special is that Coltrane plays here also the soprano saxophone. Not very common, at least at that point of time. The only one I personally can remember or love or know a little bit about is the unbelievable, the amazing Steve Lacy. So this is quite worth mentioning, in my opinion, that also not only but he plays soprano saxophone here on this record, and he plays together with McCoy Tyner on the piano, Steve Davis on bass, Elvin Jones on the drums. And what's also, in my opinion, quite important to say is that we have here, in my personal opinion, an all-time classic masterpiece by John Coltrane, which is also very, very accessible. Wonderful listening experience if you are a little bit afraid of getting into this. Give it a chance. It's it's a wonderful, wonderful jazz record. And let's start with the Analog Production here. We get it in a gatefold, and they use the space for this wonderful photos. Otherwise, it's a perfect recreation of the original jacket. It's 100% all analog. You can see this here. I hope we get it sharp. Oh, we try it. I think now you can see it. That's good. This is an important thing for me because you cannot get out of this. 100% all honored, mastered and cut. No, there is no way out of it, and that's very, very important. Master engineer has been Kevin Gray. Has been Ryan K. Smith. And let's get a bit into it. How did he do? Well, did he do a great job compared to the original? The original stereo, or maybe before get into the comparison, just have a look at the label. Again, a great job, also a wonderful recreation of the original label. That was the Analog Production I just showed, and here I show you now the label of the stereo. In a minute we get into the label of the mono because they are different. First off, I'd like to say that they are extremely close to each other, which of course is a wonderful thing. There are two differences that are worth mentioning, but in general, except of those two more or less minor, but what is minor when it comes to comparing records? There are, and there is the wonderful experience nowadays is you now, if you get those, if you get this analog production release, this Atlantic 75 release, you have a little time machine in the way that you now have the experience. How was it when I bought this in 1961, opened it up and put it on the record player? Because they are very, 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 very similar. And also in those very little details, when you hear the title track, the Rodgers and Hammerstein, My Favorite Things, which is over 13 minutes, by the way, the saxophone from John Coltrane, it moves a little bit from the speaker to the center, a little bit. It moves left and right and right and left. And you have the same movement on the original. So that was quite interesting. I was quite eager to hear if that is the same there. And this is, of course, amazing and astonishing considering the age of the tapes. The overall body of music, also very, 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 very similar. The two differences between the original stereo and the reissue from analog production are, first, the piano on the original is a little thinner, which is, in my personal opinion, a little improvement on the reissue, that you have it a little more prominent, a little more thicker. Although this is a wonderful copy of it in an impressive shape, I wouldn't say mint, but very, very good shape. The vinyl on the reissue is more silent, which of course again is a vast improvement in the detail. So that's also worth mentioning. What's also worth mentioning is that getting a really, really good copy of the original seems to be extremely difficult nowadays. I've looked up at Discogs and one, I think it was near mint, he wanted 1,400 euros for it, which is, and it was the only high-graded copy, the only one, the stereo one. And okay, that is of course, wow, that is of course an explosion in price when it comes to this. I think 1, 2, 3 years ago, you would have get an amazing copy, correct me if I'm wrong, for 300, 400, 500 euros. So now again, what's quite often the case with those reissues, if they match the original, which is not often the case, but here it is most definitely the case, maybe even a little improvement. You can get them now, just order them, get them, have it, and trying to find a copy like this is, you need time, you need effort, you need means, and you need luck. Not easy. Wonderful copy, thanks Thomas. And of course, as you can imagine, or many of you can imagine, I was now, of course, now that I have my mono cartridge and the experience I have made so far, very, very, very eager to compare the original stereo against the original mono. And this is a very different experience. Of course, you have it in the center, not much space, not much sound stage, but you have more dynamics, an overall, in my opinion, an overall more cohesive body when it comes to the experience over all frequencies. Very, very beautiful, very, very punchy. You have more sharpness. And what I promised you, I of course will keep. you have a different label. Here you can see the different color when it comes to the first mono pressing. Atlantic did it that way, which is of course cool. But it's difficult. Somehow I prefer the mono experience. But then again, I don't. This is a classical situation of where I think it makes so much sense if you are really into this music, if you are really into this record. It totally makes sense to have both versions of it, because it's very different. It's a very different experience of the same. And this is, of course, really fun. Doing this is really fun. Comparing this, listening to it in this way, listening to it in that way. That is wonderful. And that's what keeps me going in a way. Those different experiences, those surprises, the things I didn't expect, the confirmation of the things I did expect. This makes it so interesting right now, and keeps it, and it will be interesting for the foreseeable future. That's wonderful, wonderful. If you ask me, what I would love to see, of course, would be now, and the same goes for the Giant Steps, which will be my next video. I will do the same. I also have the original first US pressing in stereo and in mono. And of course, I have the analog production Atlantic 75, and within the next few days, I will do this comparison too. And I would wish, hey, come on, chat, let's do a mono release too. Let's just do it in mono, so that people who are really wants to dig into it can get them both. Wonderful. That's so interesting, and due to those decades that have gone by, we have the opportunity to go that deep, and I'm willing to, and I want to. So let's hope. Not sure, not so likely, I can imagine, but hey, who knows? But in a nutshell, Ryan K. Smith, once more, fantastic job. He matched the original where it's worth matching, and even improved slightly where it also makes sense, and we have the better quality vinyl, and maybe on the one or the other equipment you have slightly more details when it comes to the Atlantic 75. But again, that's minor and doesn't change the whole listening experience in general. So, wonderful record. If you don't have it, if you haven't listened to it, do it, try it out. Highly, highly recommended. Masterpiece by John Coltrane, my favorite things. So, thank you very much for your time, and see you on the next one. Bye.